call a spam filter, I guess, because I didn't even know until we met. But I'm just so excited to be here. Is this not an awesome group? Seriously, how many people, this is your first time here? Okay, so a couple of us. This is my first time too. But I did just go to Tony Robbins UPW, what was it, 2 months ago or so, and it was amazing if you haven't been. So anyway, we're going to have fun. I know I'm here to speak. We're going to learn some stuff, but honestly, I just want to have some fun. It's Saturday morning. Is that okay? We're just kind of keep this lighthearted, interactive. I am going to talk about a topic some of you are already thinking, well, I don't want to write a book. Okay, by the end of this, we'll talk then. Let's see. I want to talk about something I'm really passionate about, and that's your story. It's not about a book. We'll get to that. But everybody has a story. But I first want to just say, like-minded people, you guys are in the absolute best place to be, because the most successful people on this planet are those that surround themselves with like-minded, high-energy, goal-oriented people. So give yourselves a round of applause for that. And for Ricardo and the team for putting this on, because this is awesome. I'm like so fired up back there. I'm like already sweating from dancing so much. So anyway, I'll start off with my all-time favorite quote. Is by a man named Zig Ziglar, who I love dearly, and that quote is, "Man was designed for accomplishment, engineered for success, and endowed with the seeds of greatness." Woo! Isn't that an awesome quote? I love it. Here's why I love it. What it means is everything you need to be successful, no matter what you want to do, you've already got it within you. It's already there. Whether you believe it or not doesn't matter. Your seeds of greatness came when you were born. Your only job in life, is first of all figure out what those seeds are, right? But then you got to do something with them. You have to nourish them. You have to water them. You have to give them sunshine. You have to come to groups like this and get filled up and excited and all that. Because those seeds of greatness will do what all seeds do. They take root. And when the seeds take root within you and your community and with whatever it is your seeds are, that's when life gets pretty exciting. That's when we grow. That's when we make a difference. Those seeds of greatness probably have been through some tragedy, probably have been through some hard times, but it's because of what you've gone through that you have a greater story. Does that make sense? So that's why I get excited about talking about books. But that's what we're here for. So let me just give you, just for some of you thinking like, yeah, I don't even know if I want to write a book, I don't know. Let me just tell you why you should write a book, okay? Number one, your story matters. It matters, even if it matters to one person. How many people were inspired by this wonderful young lady? What's your name, by the way? Brianna. Beautiful, inside and out. How many of you were inspired by her, a little bit of her story? That's inspiration for all of us because it gives us hope. You know, no matter what we go through, we can overcome it. So your story matters. Imagine if you all didn't hear her story today. How would your life be different? It's better because you heard it. So never, ever, ever, ever for a second think your story doesn't matter, because it matters to someone, even if it's one person. You know, even if it's your child, your spouse, your neighbor, it doesn't matter who, but it could matter to lots of people. So it matters. Number two, it will give you instant credibility. No matter what, when you are an author, instantly, whether it's deserved or not, I hate to say it, it's instant credibility. People look at you differently when you're a published author. It's just the way our minds are, it's just the way we're wired in this society, right? It brings you instant credibility. It also brings you instant expert status. So regardless of why you would ever write a book, some of you want to write a legacy book, some of you want to write a business card book, some of you don't even think you want to write a book yet, but just hear me out. When you share your thoughts with anyone about any topic, you instantly become the expert. Because there's so much credibility given to published authors, no matter what you write about, that published author status is going to instantly make you the expert on whatever it is you're writing about. And a lot of us, like myself, I write nonfiction. So I write about my life, and it's not a perfect life. In fact, it's so unperfect, and the longer you get to know me, the more you'll realize. But because I've gone through it, I'm an expert at my life. And I'm an expert at what I've overcome, and I'm an expert at what I want to share, and I'm an expert at wanting to motivate and encourage people. And so you have that too. It's just a matter of figuring out what it is. So it creates more opportunities. How many of you, just say yes. So we're in the Tony group here, so we're going to, instead of raising hands, we're going to just say yes. How many of you ultimately would like to make a difference in a greater way? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay. the way to do that is to get opportunities. Well, opportunities are drawn to authors. Whether you go looking for them or not, they're drawn to authors. And I'll get more into what exactly that looks like. But when you're a published author, you have an opportunity to do more for other people, whether it be go and speak, whether it be to share that book with others. I mean, there's just so many more opportunities. Consulting, coaching, all these things open up, not necessarily because of writing the book, or I'm sorry, not because of the content, it's because you wrote a book. People see you differently. That credibility status is there. Now you're the expert. Now you're the person they want up in the front of the room. Okay? It also gives you leverage. Whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, whether it is, how many of you own your own business? Raise your hand. Okay, how many of you work for somebody else in a career that you'd like to maybe see some improvement, upward movement, that kind of thing? Okay. When you have published a book, even if you work for somebody else, it gives you leverage. Again, that credibility, right? It's going to let people see you differently. But that leverage is how you can open up new opportunities. You can, there's just so much more you can negotiate and work with people on when you have a book. And I'll get more into how to do that in a minute, but just know there's a lot of leverage. It's also the #1 way for people to get to know you. And my friend Bob Berg has always said, people will do business with those they know, like, and trust. And isn't that true? Yeah. Think about if you bought a car recently or went to, think about whatever, life insurance, whatever you bought recently, you bought it probably not because it was the only person available to sell it to you, but it was probably because you liked the person you were working with the most. It's that relationship. It's in the heart, absolutely. It's that when we feel like, oh, I know you, I know your story, I know how to connect with you, so I trust you more because I know you. And we want to work with people we know. So, the best way for either your clients, your neighbors, your church family, whoever, anyone in your life, the only and best way for them to really get to know, like, and trust you is to know your story. So that's what this is all about. And I just want to give you credit for sharing your story with a group of people. You may not even know everybody, but that's a perfect example. How powerful, just your little story, that's a big one, but you shared it in a short period of time, how that changes people's lives. So, your story matters. So, if the best way for people to know, like, and trust you is to know your story, is it okay if I share my story? So you kind of have a feeling, I swear I'm not standing up here because Ricardo says I'm some rock star and he's been chasing me for 18 months. I promise there's more to that. I'm human and I'm just like you. I'm no different than you. I'm a mom, I'm a wife. I happen to write books and I happen to speak, but at the end of the day, we're all the same in my opinion. So, one thing I do love, and we're going to have fun with this, is I love the 80s. Okay, by a show of hands, how many of you grew up in the 80s? Raise your hand. Okay, how many of you have heard of the 80s? We're a couple decades past some people, especially those little guys back there. Okay, well, everyone has a decade. They say that everyone has a decade you most relate to, the clothes, the hair, the music, everything. For me, it was the 80s. So what's the first thing you think of when you think of the 80s? Just shout it out. Let's have fun. MTV, big hair, what else? You said something? Duran Duran shoulder pads. Oh my gosh. I found a picture of myself a couple months ago. It was like wall to wall. And I remember in that day thinking I looked pretty good. Boom, boom. I don't know what we're thinking. Who else? Guys, what do you remember from the 80s? Rubik's Cube. Oh my gosh. Okay, I don't want to brag, but I could solve the Rubik's Cube. It's really simple. You just take the stickers off one side and you move it around. I was not that person who could do the real one. Who else? Leg warmers. Oh my gosh. Okay, what color were yours?
I think they were blue.
Blue?
Yeah.
Who else had leg warmers? Color? Pink. Mine were that fluorescent, like hot pink. Everything was fluorescent in the 80s, Olivia Newton-John, Cyndi Lauper, yes. So, okay, you're speaking my language. This was my decade. Like, I absolutely loved it. Totally got into the music, totally got into the hairstyles, the clothes, everything. And just to give you an idea of how much I got into it, this is me in 1989. Woo, baby! There's a reason why I wear my hair up and straight a lot more now, but actually, I was trying to find a picture. I've used this picture when I've talked before, and I have pictures of my hair way bigger than that. Y'all know what I'm talking about, the Aquanet up and out kind of thing, and the bzzz. Yes, well that was me in the 80s, the big hair. So obviously I like to have fun, and we're talking about that, but there is a reason why I'm talking about the 80s. In fact, my entire life changed in 1989, just 2 months before this picture was taken. I was just getting ready to go off to college. I live here locally, grew up in Trophy Club, and I was going to the University of North Texas. Any Eagles? Woo! Scratch it where it hurts. I don't know if that was really the thing, but Denton didn't have a big spirit going on. So, but I was going to North Texas, and it was the weekend right before I was going off to school, and you know that weekend when all your friends, it's your last weekend to get together, say goodbye, go to the parties, do all the fun things, and then everybody was going to their own schools. Well, that particular weekend, my parents thought it would be a better idea to give me a graduation gift. You know, the big gift you get when you graduate high school, you're going off into the world, and they made such a big deal about, you know, they were going to present me with my gift at dinner that night, and I was so excited, because, you know, all along I'd been waiting for my... Thank you, yes. So we're at dinner, and my mom says something along the lines of, Michelle, we're so excited to give you this gift. This gift is going to change your life. And I'm like, oh, yes it will. I haven't had a car yet, and I'm ready to leave. Michelle, this gift is going to take you places you cannot imagine. And I'm thinking, yes, it will, way beyond Denton. Michelle, this gift is going to be the envy of all of your friends. And at this point, I'm like, it's a convertible. Michelle, this gift is a ticket to a seminar. Woo! Yes, a seminar. And to make matters worse, it wasn't just a seminar, it was a motivational seminar. I don't know about you, but I was 18 years old. I did not want to be motivated. Clearly you're different than I was, but any other people in 18 want to be motivated? No. And it was that weekend, my last weekend before going off to college. Yeah. So needless to say, I went with like fingernails in the walls, like as they dragged me to go. I did not want to go to the seminar, but it changed my life. It was a seminar called Born to Win, and it was hosted by this guy named Zig Ziglar. Anybody ever hear of Zig Ziglar? Okay, yeah. Well, I had never heard of him. Certainly did not want to spend 3 days with him. But I go to this seminar, and it truly, truly changed my life. And one of the reasons I think I'm so fired up and passionate about groups like this is something magical happens when you're around like-minded people, people that want more for their life, people who are goal-oriented, and they're ready to do something with their life. And that's what Born to Win was all about. And it was 3 days of that. So my brother went with me. He was forced to. And he was 21, I was 18, and we walked into this seminar, and we were the youngest in the room by decades. No joke. And at first, I couldn't, you know, I didn't want to stay, but then it just started to sink in. And by the end of the 3 days, I was so fired up. I mean, I was a totally different person. I didn't know the word for it at the time, but I know now. I found my passion that weekend. Because I was soaking it up. I mean, I was drinking it like you know, I loved it. And I loved Zig, and I loved his staff, and I just loved the whole concept of personal development and growth and being better than what you already were. And so I was fired up, to tell you, I mean, to say the least. But I also had a feeling. And the feeling was that I was going to be doing that someday. But not just doing it, I had a feeling I'd be doing it with Zig. So I had the need to tell him that at 18, which looking back I'm a little embarrassed about. But at 18, I'm standing and waiting in line, and I just can't wait to tell him. You know, and I say to him, I'm like, Mr. Ziglar, I'm going to work for you one day. You just wait and see, but I'm going to work for you. And you know how we all do that sometimes with kids. We just smile like, oh, yeah. Well, it was almost 5 years to the day I was working for him in the corporate office. And it's a long career, thank you. I wish I could take credit because it really wasn't me. It was, I say it's a God thing because truly I left that seminar and I went to college, like that Monday. And I spent the next 4.5 years in Denton. And anyone ever go to college and remember what college life is like, you know. I mean, I was just a normal college girl and I was studying. And by the time I graduated, I'd kind of forgotten that goal. You know, Ricardo was talking about our goals. Have you ever set a goal and then forget about it? And then later you're like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to do that. Well, I was working my first job out of college selling copiers, going business to business to business, and it was the worst job on earth. Anyone ever sell copiers? You guys you have no idea how lucky you are. No, but what happened was I was going to build business buildings that it was cold calling, so you didn't know where you were going. And I walk up to this business park in Carrollton, and on the top of the building it says the Zig Ziglar Corporation. Now, keep in mind, this was 1989 when I went to the seminar. There was no Google. There was no way of looking up somebody's headquarters. I mean, at least I didn't know how to do it. I had no idea he was based in Dallas. I had no idea. I just went to the seminar, kind of like Tony goes all over, you know. So when I see that, the sign on the building, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's right, I'm supposed to work here, you know? Like, I told them, and here I am. And so I run inside, and the lady at the receptionist desk was so sweet and so awesome, but I was like a little girl, and, you know, seeing a music star, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is where Zig Ziglar works. And she just smiles, and I said, do you have any job openings? Because I will do anything to work here. So around that time I was selling copier cells, hating every moment of it. I kind of made an internal promise to myself that I would never, ever take a sales position again. Anyone not want to be in sales? I did not. So, of course, the only opportunity to work at the headquarters was a sales position. So I'm like, okay, that's fine, I'll try. So I went home and I typed up my very first resume, and it had 6 months of copier sales experience. That's pretty good, right? Doesn't quite land you a job at Ziglar. But I'll make a long story short. I ended up submitting my resume, got a call, went in for an interview, and practically got offered the job on the spot. And I'm telling you not to impress you, because we've already established 6 months copier sales, not impressive. But I know that I know that I know it's because when I was 18 years old, I planted a seed. I set a goal for myself. I set, I call it your definition of success. When you put in your mind what you want, even if you have no idea how to get there, your mind is like a computer. It will eventually get in the direction of what you're thinking about. So if you're thinking about something and planting that goal and planting that seed, eventually you're going to get in that direction. Now, it's never a straight line. It's kind of like a GPS in a car, right? So when you program in where you are to where you want to be, usually it will get you there on time, and as long as you are on time, you don't care what roads it takes you on. Well, life does the same thing. So when you plant your goal and your seed, your mind will go in that direction. But unless you get specific about your goal and your dream and what you want to accomplish, you will get close, but you won't get there. So for me, I came from McKinney, Texas. I knew where this was, but let's say I didn't. I programmed in, the Cascades here, or I programmed in the Colony. I would have gotten to the Colony, right, if I programmed that in my GPS. But I wouldn't be standing here unless I specified the address. So that's the importance, and why I start with this is it's not about your goals and your dreams. It's the specific ones. Because if you just want to be more successful, you'll get close, but you won't get where you want to be. If you just want to make more money, okay, but how much? If you just want to lose the weight, no, you got to get very, very, very specific. So that's kind of how it started for me, and I did end up working for Zig for a long time. So in 1989 is when I discovered my Seeds of Greatness. And through the years, I've had a beautiful relationship with Zig and the Ziglars. I only worked in the corporate office for 3.5, almost 4 years, and I was in sales for him. I got to do some incredible things, and every single day I was living my passion. I loved it. I didn't make hardly any money. I didn't care. I loved what I did. But it was in around 1997, 98, around the dot-com boom, I had a recruiter come after me to do software sales, technology sales, those kinds of things. And I don't know if anybody remembers that time, but they were throwing a lot of money at salespeople and a lot of promises, and so I jumped. So I left my passion to pursue more money. And I did that for the next 13 years. Through the years, though, I always stayed in touch because it was a family working at Ziglar. And it was in 2008. So my Seeds of Greatness started. I figured them out early. I didn't do anything with them for 13 years. Secretly, I wanted to write a book. Okay, nobody raise your hand, because I know you won't want to do it like I didn't want to. But somebody in this room has thought about, wouldn't it be cool to write a book? Some people are ready to proclaim it. Some people aren't. Or wouldn't it be cool to have something to say that could help somebody? I believed that and thought that for the 13 years that I was in corporate America away from Ziglar. I missed that passion and that feeling of making a difference in other people's lives. And so I secretly wanted to write a book. In 2008, I ended up going back to another conference. This wasn't a Zig conference. I actually was there just supporting a friend, selling her product at the back of the room. And something was said that weekend that just shook me up again. Kind of like my aha moment at 18. In 2008, I had another one. And in 2008, I heard, all these years I kept saying, I want to write a book, I want to write a book. And I'd stop myself in my tracks and say, well, who do you think you are? You're not Zig Ziglar. What do you have to say? Why would anybody care what you have to say? Some of you might be able to relate to this. But that day, I just had a shift in my belief. And I said, you know what? Why not me? Instead of saying, not me, I said, well, why not me? I have had my ups and downs in life. I have a heart to want to help people. What if I took a stand and shared my story, the good, the bad, the ugly, and what if it made a difference in somebody else's life? And so I wrote my first book. And I had Zig write the foreword, and we published it, and guess what? I didn't tell a soul. Byron no, I'm kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking. He wrote a book, and I asked him for it. I'm like, where are your books? Gotta breathe. I did that. I wrote a book, published it. I even had Zig write the foreword, and I did nothing with it for a couple months. Fear. Total fear. But when somebody said to me, you want to help all these people, but guess what? You can't help a soul if they don't know your story. It just went, you're right. And so everything changed. And honest to God, that's when a business grew for me overnight. A business of speaking and coaching and seminars and doing what I, at 18, was desperately wanting to do. And I now get to do it full time. And again, I'm not sharing all of this with you to impress you, because I swear I'm just like you. But the difference is I took action on a goal. And in your goal, whatever it is, I have a theory that if you take whatever that is and whatever you can help people with and you put it in a book, there's something powerful about a published book that will open doors for you. And those are just some of the doors that it opened. So that's my story. And there's more to it, trust me. But I'm not here for me. What is your story? You don't have to tell me, but I want you to think about it. What is your story? What have you been through, good or bad, that you could share with someone else that could help them, that could inspire them, that could educate them? It could be something specific to your business. I mean, you may know something so incredible about your industry or your business or what have you, or you might just have been through something that, other people might be going through. And that could be positive or it could be negative. But the point is, you have a story. And no matter where you are on your journey, you have a story today. You don't have to be on the pedestal of greatness in order to write a book. In fact, I believe that you help more people when you're so imperfect, but you give people hope. So Zig is my mentor. He did die 4 years ago. But the legacy is something that I carry on with me. That's what I'm committed to doing, because it's just that message of hope. And I believe the more we share a story, the more hope we give. So what's your story? So I'm going to just assume that you've already figured out what your story is, and you're maybe considering writing a book, and maybe you aren't, and that's okay. Whether you write a book or just speak it or do it one-on-one doesn't matter. Just know your story. But here are some benefits and ways that you can leverage author status, okay? Number one, if you do have something that you want to share to make an impact, to either grow your own business, to possibly grow a career that you're already in, or even just to serve people, one of the easiest ways to do it once you're an author is through the media. One of my good friends is Jeff Crilly, and he used to be on Channel 8 News, I believe.
Fox 4.
Fox 4, yes, thank you. Well, now he owns an amazing publicity PR company, and this is what he does for people. And he'll tell you, first off, he's like, the media needs you. Think about this. The job of the media is, depending on the show, on a daily basis, sometimes hourly basis, or especially weekly basis, they have to, for their job, interview people. That's their job. And who do they want to interview? They want to interview experts. They want to talk to the people who are in the community, who are doing something, shaking things up, making a difference, who are talk show worthy. Now, who's talk show worthy?
Everyone.
Well, yes, but who makes that? Who convinces the media you're talk show worthy? A book. Well, yes, absolutely. It's that expert status, though, right? So they may speak to you, but if you have a book, in their mind, they're like, oh, okay, he's written a book, check. He's got something to say, check. Will that person make my life easier because I need somebody to interview by tomorrow at 8 a.m.? Check. So the media is something that is underlooked and undervalued in that we assume you have to be on the pedestal to do it, right? No, they just need an expert. And who's the expert? The author is the expert, right? Deserved or undeserved, the credibility goes to the published author. The other thing is, if you have your own business, or let's say you're in a career where you have prospects, you're looking for opportunities to grow, to get more business, having a book is a great, great way to do that. Because you can give a book away. You don't have to sell a book, but you can give a book away as a business card, right? Or as a bonus. It's a great way, for example, I'm doing a project right now with a bunch of dentists. They're writing a book, and there's 100 other dentists down the street from them. They're looking for a way to differentiate themselves from their competition. Are they any better, different? I don't know. They probably went to the same schools. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But because they're published, when a client comes in to, should I get my root canal with this guy or with this guy? Who are they going to think is more credible? The person who wrote the book about it. So definitely it helps to get new clients, and we all love bonuses and things like that. But it does help with past clients. So whether again this is your own business or a different, it is a great way to get back in touch and to reach out to people that maybe you haven't worked with in a while. Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. I've been recently writing a book. Just wanted to share with you. Again, instant credibility, and instantly will help you leverage if you're trying to build a business out of this. But let's fast forward. How many people have a desire to speak? Okay. Let me rephrase it then. because not everybody wants to be a speaker, and guess what? That's totally normal. How many of you would like an opportunity to impact more people and are open to doing it by opening your mouth? Okay, hear me out on this, because I'm not standing up here telling anybody they need to be a motivational speaker. I happen to have that goal when I was 18. Not everybody does. But here's the truth. When you have an opportunity to speak to a group of people, you are now helping the multitudes versus one-on-one. Think about whatever your topic is, whatever your story is, and if you're really passionate about helping somebody with that, it's going to take a lot of time for you to go one-on-one. Let's go to coffee, let's go to lunch, and share that with them. You can do it, but it takes a lot longer. When you have an opportunity to sell or share one-to-many instead of one-to-one, that's when you start making a big impact. So speaking is not for people that really want to speak and be, dynamic and all that. No, but when you, just like what you did, you were the perfect example and so inspiring. Just by sharing your little bit of story, you were speaking, believe it or not. You don't have to be professionally known as a speaker, but now look at all the people you impacted that didn't know your story before, and now we do because you spoke about it. So think about that. When you're an author, though, who gets on the stages? Events that bring in speakers, who do they want? Just like the media, they need the credible ones. Well, who is credible? Typically, if they've written a book, they're credible. So think of a book, if you will. It's an opportunity to get you in front of more people. So it is a business card, but the impact is it's going to help a lot of more people, too. Okay, if you do want to make more money, probably nobody in this room does. Does anybody want? No? Okay. Well, we'll skip over that. No, I'm just kidding. Honestly, your book is not about the book. It's about your story. And think about this. By a show of hands, everybody in the room, by a show of hands, who learns best? Meaning like you retain information best when you're reading. Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you retain information or you learn best when you're when you're hearing it, like a podcast, audio, CD, something like that? No. Okay. Just a handful. How many of you learn best when you're in a live environment, something like this, where you're actually experiencing it? My hand's up for that for sure. And then how many of you learn best when you are with somebody one-on-one, somebody kind of coaching you through it, talking you through it? Okay. Just in this little room, look at how many different learning styles we have. So if you have this great message and a great story, and you really want to help people and impact people, if you only put it in a book, you're really excluding so many people. So that story, the story is your story is your story. The book is just a means to an end to get some other things. But you want to take that story and you want to put it on a podcast or an audio. Or maybe you want to put together a short little couple-hour event like this. Or it could be a half-day event. It could be a 1 hour. It could be people in your living room. That's a seminar. If you want to take that same information and somebody wants to work with you one-on-one, that's coaching. All of these things, by the way, are all monetary streams of income. Paid speaking, if you have a desire to do that. And I'm not going into all that, but I'm just trying to give you some ideas that it's not necessarily about a book, but there are a lot of benefits that come by having a book. But finally, and I think most important, say yes if you want to leave a legacy for your family, your friends, your community, the people who know you. Yes. Say yes. Okay. That's what it's all about. If you do nothing else, if you have no desire to really monetize a book or really get it out there and do a business with it, that's fine. But think of the legacy you'll leave for your family, your kids, your community, people who don't even know. I'm going to share a real quick story, and I hope I don't get emotional because I tend to do that sometimes when I tell the story. My son, so I told you I wrote this book, got Zig to endorse it, big deal in my life, but it was a personal goal. So I had no desire to let people know about it. I just wasn't ready to get it out there yet, but I just needed to do it for me. Does that resonate with anybody? It was just a goal. I had to do it. So when I'm done with it, again, I told maybe 5 people. And my youngest son was in kindergarten, and the teacher came up to me after class one day, and she's like, I didn't know you wrote a book. And I was so perplexed because I was like, I didn't know you knew I wrote a book. Like, how do you know? My mom, my dad, my husband, I didn't tell anybody. I truly didn't. Didn't post it on Facebook, nothing. And so she's like, oh, no. Well, this last week in kindergarten, we were doing a whole thing on authors and famous authors like Dr. Seuss and all these books. And so at the end of the week, the kids went around the room and they had to say of all the books and all the authors that they learned about that week, who was their favorite author. I know. Here I get it every time. She's like, so Tyler stood up and he goes, my mom's my favorite author. And that still makes me cry. He's 13 now. here's why. I didn't really even make a big deal of that. I just did it because I needed to do it for me. But to know that he was so proud of me. And for no other reason. Think of who in your life would just light up knowing, my dad is an author, you know? So anyway, those are some of the reasons and the benefits. But it's just about doing it, right? Anything in life is worth doing, right? And even if you mess it up, it's okay if you have the right intentions. Well, I have really good news for you. I am not a rocket scientist. So if I can write a book, trust me, you can write a book. It is a recipe. It truly, truly, truly. So for those of you who are considering writing a book, just know there are steps. It's just like anything else. A recipe, you have ingredients, you have to know what order to put it in, and at the end of the day, voila, you have a book. You just have to know the recipe. So who's starting, I'm curious, I want to get some interaction here. Who's starting to kick around, you don't have to share what it is, but who's starting to kick around some ideas of maybe something you could put on paper that could make a difference or help people? Raise your hand. Awesome. I can promise you and guarantee if I had 10 minutes with each of you, I could promise you I could pull your whole book out of you. It's in there. It's just up here. So would anybody like to know the recipe?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to share part of the recipe with you. Actually, I'll give you all the recipe. So at the end of the day, you really do have two choices. And when I talk about writing a book, I want you to know it's not about the book. Again, keep that in mind. Because you could have a big book. You could have a little book. I mean, I do these little business card books. You know, this is just a snippet of my story, but it's simple enough that people can digest. And by the way, it happens to be my business card. Or it could be a chapter in a book. You know, there are so many ways to become published. So all those benefits that we talked about don't necessarily mean you write this novel. I mean, it could be anything. But you do need to know, you do need to do something and know the recipe. So you can figure this out on your own. Like I said, I knew nothing about writing and publishing in 2008. I just had a desire to want to share my story and help people. That's it. So you can figure it out on your own. Anything you want to learn how to do in life, you can figure out through Google. I mean, truly, right? Now, if you don't want to take that much time and you don't want to really, you want to make sure you get it right, well, then there is another option, and you can learn from somebody who's already doing it. That's pretty much simple. I mean, that's what we do. That's why we hire coaches, right? Shorten the learning curve, and that's what I do. So part of what I do with my business is I do speaking and coaching, and I do a lot on inspiring people to find their story. And then I do a lot of productivity training to help them actually do it, take action and keep them accountable. But I also teach people how to write books and get them out of their head onto paper and in the hands of the people who can benefit as quickly as possible. So it's all about just doing it, okay? So I've been doing this now for, several years, and I have a seminar called Bookbound that Ricardo will be telling you more about. I have one coming up in January, but I'm doing one in Dallas in June. And all of these people that I'm showing you, these are all people that have just took what they learned either through a seminar like this, through one of my books, or they came to the Bookbound seminar and just literally figured it out on their own. Some of these people you might know, some are local. Lauren will be here next week. All of these people knew they had a story, they just needed a little guidance to get it going. And then I also do publishing for people. But my heart is to teach you how to do it so you can go figure it out on your own. But if at that point you decide you don't want to do it on your own, I can publish it for you. And so these are just some of the books that we've published through the years, people just like you. And every single one of them, I wish I could go through all of their stories because every single one of them thought, I don't have a story. Why would I write a book? And I'll just share this one right here. Andrea Harrington, she's local. Does anybody know Andrea? Okay. She's Fort Worth, actually. So my Bookbound workshop that I do is a 3-day event, and she came for free because one of her friends brought her. And she's like, well, I don't want to write a book, but I have kids at home and I need a weekend away. I swear to you, when she stood up, and we said, why do you want to write a book? She's like, I don't. But through the process and the exercises, and by the end of the 3 days, she's like, oh my gosh, I have always had a heart to help people. And her story, I'll just give 2 seconds on it. She struggled with infertility, and then they had to go through the adoption process and ended up adopting kids from Russia. Anybody who's ever been through infertility or adoption, it's quite a journey, and it's a very lonely journey. And so her heart was, I want to help other people that are struggling with that. So just for kicks, she went ahead through the exercises in the workshop, and she thought, we'll see what comes out of it. By the end, she had an entire book, completely mapped out, chapters, sub-chapters, stories, all of that. But the coolest thing is, when she left there, she took action. So within about 60 days of leaving the workshop, she published this. I helped her, but I mean, she pretty much did the heavy lifting. And she gets a call one day from Frank Garrett, who happens to be the president of Gladney International. Have you ever heard of Gladney International? Evidently, it's one of the largest international agencies in the world, and he was the president. Somehow he heard that she was writing a book, just for her girlfriends, and called her and said, hey, we're doing our big annual event, and we would love for you to be the keynote speaker. And I remember she called me, she's like, oh my gosh, because she's like, I don't speak. Like, I don't do anything. Anyway, so we coached her, and so he wanted her. She came and she spoke. They paid her $3,000 to be the keynote speaker. I'm not saying that's going to happen to you, but it can. And why not you? Seriously, why not you? So anyway, so she called me, and we talked through it. She booked it, and then they said, and we want to buy a book for everyone there. And there were like, I want to say like 1,000, 2,000 people there. So my point in sharing her story is, she was sitting there thinking, I'm not going to write a book. Did she make money on it? Yes. Is that what her why was? No. But guess what she got to do? She got to speak life and inspiration to all those women and husbands in the room who were struggling and couldn't find they didn't have their baby yet. So I just want to encourage you, if you do nothing else, just leave here today thinking, maybe. And why not you? Why not you? Seriously. Anyway, I am going to give you guys a gift, and it's a free gift for you, and you can write the information down or go outside. I have my business card for everybody, and there is a little, literally, the recipe of what to do for writing a book is in here, so take that. That's my gift to you. And I'm also going to give you one more thing, because I have an online portal that I sell, but it's Author Launchpad, and basically, this is for people that are kind of thinking about it, like, okay, now I'm maybe going to do something. And so it's everything you need to know to write it, to publish it, and to market your first book, right? So there's over 50 online videos. It's just me talking, telling you. They're short videos, 2 to 3 minutes, everything you need to know at your fingertips. It's all right there. And the topics are broken into 3 categories: writing, publishing, marketing, depending on where you are in that. And there's checklists and resources and stuff like that in there. That's just kind of what some of it looks like. We do charge $20 a month for it. Or $19 a year, but actually, I'm just going to give you guys all 7 days free access. Try it, download it, get what you need, but don't waste, if you're thinking about writing a book, don't wait, just do it, okay? Promise me, you will change somebody's life. You can just explore and see if there's something in there, but every detail you need to do a book, from how do you get an editor, to how do I buy an ISBN number, or how do I do it, put it on Amazon, all that's on there. So please take advantage of that, that's my gift for you. And then if you want to stay with it, great. But if not, you can cancel. The other thing, I'll just plant a seed. So Book Bound by the Sea is coming up, and Amy is going to be there. I'm so excited! I think there's some other people in the room who might be there, but Mary will be there. And so I'm excited about that. If this is something you're ready to take action on, just come see me, or go see Amy. She'll get you hooked up. But it's 3 days, and we do have a lot of fun. And then we bring it back to Dallas in Plano. And I know Ricardo's going to let you guys know about that in June. But and Amy will let you know because she'll give you her discount. So anyway, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about with that. I do want to close off with something, though. Because I'm dead serious when it's not, I didn't come here today to sell you to write a book. I mean, if you want to write a book, great. If you don't, no big deal. I do want to make sure I sell you on one thing, and that is your seeds of greatness. They have to be let go. I mean, they have to be out there. You have something within you, and I know somebody is in this room today for a reason, because I pray every time I come and speak for at least one person. You have something that you're ready to birth, and I just want to encourage you to do it. Even if no one reads it, but your spouse, your child, the most important person to you, you got to do it, because that's the only way to make a difference. If you want to make a difference, you got to tell your story. So who's willing to tell their story? Say yes. Yes! Who's really going to tell their story? Say yes. Yes! Who would like to, do I have 2 more minutes or something like that? Okay. I want to open it up. Who has a story that, kind of like what you were sharing about your goal, but who has a little story? Who's had something percolate just in the little bit that we've been here? That you're like, maybe. Who wants to share? I'm not Ricardo, and I will not go make you eat. I'm a lot easier. Go.
We're in a tank here.
But I'm curious, because here's the other thing is, we all need a group of people to help us be successful. And so it's not a scary thing. So if you feel like maybe there's something that I could share with somebody, this would be a great opportunity to bounce it off some folks. So who wants to share? Yes. Yes, let's hear your hands.
Hi, my name is Tamara. I'm actually from New York City. I came to visit Lisa and she brought me over here.
I'm from Maplewood, New Jersey.
Oh, nice, nice. I'm so grateful to be here. So basically, I think I grew up in a home, like many other people, where affection and love were not really expressed openly, and sexuality was suppressed, and it was like taboo. So I got married really young and had a kid really young, and then went through my divorce and a lot of things there. But throughout this journey, I came to a point one day when I was like, I don't even know how to feel my body. I don't know how to express love in a very beautiful way, in a way people can receive it, in a way, and I also don't know how to receive love. So I went through different seminars, and not even with the intention to teach anybody, but just to learn about it. And I learned how to feel my body, how to feel my soul, how to be intimate with someone else, and have an energy exchange, where the connection is very intimate, it's very spiritual, it's deep. It's not just like what we see on TV, pornography. I learned to become a better parent for my child, where I learned to express myself. I can accept a hug now from her, and she'll say, I love you 10 times a day, and I don't get offended. Whereas before she would say, I love you, and I'm like, stop saying it. I don't need you to say it for me to know it, and I was like really, really offended, because I don't think I ever knew how to receive it.
That's all you knew.
Yes. So now my goal is to teach others, any age group, how to express themselves, because I feel like that's the one thing we were never taught. We're not taught to express ourselves, be open in every way. It's not just sexual. And how to do it with joy, without shame, how to accept your bodies, how to see the God in everyone, how to see the little girl or boy in everyone. And I think like spreading that love will like change the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
See how she kind of lights up when she starts talking about it?
Yes.
I gave you chills.
Yeah, and if you could, and again, the book is not about a book, right? It's just the means to an end who can impact more people. So imagine though, someone who wouldn't be able to experience you lighting up right now, but they could read it if they live miles away, could still benefit.
Yes.
So that, that's your story.
Thank you.
That is awesome.
But I have a question.
Yeah.
So since it's not like I found my partner in life yet, or have settled in that area, I always feel like a book needs to have a super happy ending that I haven't reached yet. So I'm always like, I have to find a man and be really happy, so that my story has that happy ending that I think people expect. So what would you suggest for that?
I'm not laughing. I'm laughing because I think everybody thinks that, like, well, who am I to write it now? I mean, well, I'll wait till I'm really successful and then I'll share. No, I think we all, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I think we learn from people best when they're just authentic and just real. And let's face it, nobody is at the top yet. Nobody, unless they're dead. I mean, truly, every day we're going to a journey. So I just think that share where you are on the journey now. Wherever you are today, you're going to give someone hope. I am very visual, so I always look at it this way. Imagine like a road, right? Like kind of a road leading up. And you've been through some stuff, right? You had issues with it. You've learned some things, and you're a couple steps along on the path. You're not up there yet, though, right? Because you're still dealing with it. You're finding someone. But there is somebody behind you. That's the 2 or 3 steps behind you that needs that hope and encouragement and inspiration to be like, wow, okay, so I'm where she was. I'm not telling my kids I love them. If she can do it, I can do it. You know what I mean? So it's not about being at the end. It's about the journey. And if you think about any famous author did not start writing when they had it all figured out. They didn't. In fact, Dennis Waitley spoke at the conference I went to in 2008 was called Journey to Power. Dennis Waitley was one of the speakers. And I spoke to him. I think he said this from the stage. I did chat with him a little afterwards, but I think he said this from the stage. His very first book, I'm not going to remember the title, was something about, goodness, what was his first book title? Anybody know? It's a very uplifting, like, I'm successful kind of book. It'll come to me in a second. He said when he wrote that book, he was dirt poor, he was depressed, He was at the absolute bottom of his life. I think he had just lost a relationship. And the reason, Achieving Greatness or something like that, the way that book came about was he was so depressed and desperate for a better life that he started doing personal development. And he started reading everything he could get his hands on and going to all these seminars. And he literally started taking notes for his friends, because he was getting so much out of it. So then he's like, well, I need to share this with my friends. I need to share this with the people I love. And that became his book. And now that book, he had still does, full career of helping people and motivating people and inspiring people. And he wrote it when he was at the depths of despair. So my point is, this is just my view of it, right? I believe you help someone more when you're just real with who you are and where you are, and you're no better. You're just a couple steps ahead. That's all. That's it. That's it. You're welcome. Who else? Love your energy up here. Who else? Come on, somebody has something. Yeah, I saw your hand kind of trying to.
There's several ideas I've had actually as you're talking. One of them that at first I was thinking my life story. It's been kind of like a roller coaster in many ways, but with all of us, there's times you have crises. But I was thinking of I went up to spend Thanksgiving with my son and daughter-in-law, and they're like 27. And the frustrating thing for me is when I try to explain to my son things I learned from my parents and my grandparents, he takes it as criticism. And I think if I could write a book of what I want kids to know that I've learned from the generations down, that I feel, because I live so far away from him, he's not getting it.
Right.
My daughter-in-law didn't even know how to crack an egg. I hope she never sees this, but I just feel like if I was there, I could teach them so much that I learned from my parents.
Right.
They were such good people, and maybe some kind of a story could come from that. I don't know.
And even if no one
But-
was to read it, or your son and daughter.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
So how many people would like to learn from the generation above us? I mean, I can barely.
I'd have to have it be from another author's name, so I wouldn't know it's from me.
Well, I think you should do it. There is an actual exercise, and I know Ricardo's probably looking at me like, come on, let's go. But there is an exercise to do to figure out what a great book topic is. It's what we do at Bookbound, but I'll just share it real quick. It's just your passion and your experience. It's the intersection between the two. So we're all passionate about lots of things. And we have experience with lots and lots and lots of things. And experience, by the way, is not just work experience, and it's not all bad, and it's not all good. It's just what have you gone through in life? I'm a mom, I'm a daughter. I also went through some really low periods in my life of low self-esteem and a bunch of other issues. Those are my experiences, like it or not. Some people have had divorce, bankruptcy, all kinds of things happen. It's part of your experience. Doesn't mean that's what you write a book about, though. So what is your book? It's the combination is what are you passionate about? Like what lights you up when you have a conversation with someone? For me, I love personal development. I always have, I always will, and that lights me up. And I love encouraging people and motivating them. And that's just in my DNA. But I also had experience with it because I had to use it because I had really low self-esteem for a really long time. So I took that experience, plus I learned a lot from Zig. I worked for him. Don't have to work for Zig to have a story, though. So I took that combination, that intersection of passion, love personal development, love speaking into people, and the experiences I went through of having to use personal development. That makes a good book because it's a book that you want to write. You're motivated to write it. And it's a book others want to read because they can feel your spirit. Does that make sense? So that's the key. So if those two, if that fits the bill for both sides of that, then do it, for sure. I'll take one more story. Yes. Oh, of course, absolutely. And we won't sit here and watch you do it. So we'll redirect for just a second. I want to say something too, because some of you are thinking, yeah, I don't have a personal story. Either I don't have a personal story, or maybe I don't want to share it. So you don't have to write a book about your personal experiences to be an author. That's what is something called a business card book, where you focus specifically on what is it that you can give back to somebody more on a professional level. So for example, my first book was called Winning in Life Now. That is my story. But I've written a lot of other books that are not my story, and this is just a tiny example of one, but your book is your business card. This is specific to writing a book. So for those of you who are really good at being in management, or maybe you're really good in a particular industry, or you want to help somebody build apps, you can write a book and follow the same recipe and it not be a feel-good book. Does that make sense? So sometimes people are drawn, a lot of times groups like this are drawn to wanting to help others. So those tend to be more those nonfiction, self-help, let me help you books. But everything I'm talking about can be done even if you have no desire to share that part of yourself. Does that make sense? Yes. Are you done? If not, okay. Well, then we'll come right back to you.
Hi. So building on your story, I grew up as an only child, and I always said I'm never going to have an only child. And so I was blessed with 2 only children. I have a 11-year-old and a 19-year-old, and because of their age difference, it's really like raising 2 only children. So, and why I say I was blessed with that is because, like you, I learned, I guess, through my first child, trial and error, through the first child, and I've changed a lot with the second child. And so the first child is now living with my mom because he's in college, and he's going to college out of state and living with her. And she'll call me and she'll say, well, guess what he did today? He talks a big game, like he doesn't have a heart and he doesn't like animals, but there's a stray cat in our yard and he put food out. Where do you think he got that from? So things like that, and it's kind of funny because I hear it coming back. I hear my messages through my mom, coming back that I taught. So my daughter and I have a very different relationship, and it's very, it's been a power struggle to where she is now. And so I am writing children's books with messages in them to deliver, and to your story, she said, Mom, when are you going to get your book published so I can share it with all my friends?
Yay! Well,
Anyway,
congratulations.
just thought I'd share that. So there's other ways to look at it too, but what I thought was one of my worst curses of having 2 only children and having to go through this struggle twice turns into a blessing in disguise.
Somehow it always seems to come back. Maybe there's a plan for everything. I don't know. Good timing? Okay.
Okay, so the accident happened when I was 15, and I was a sophomore in high school. I was on varsity basketball, and I had this idea of perfect plan for my life. I was going to play basketball in college, be a graphic designer, and then after the accident, I was told I could never run again, or possibly never move my left arm again. So all my plans changed, and I realized that my plan that God has a better plan for me. And I want to write a book so I can tell other kids who think they have a perfect plan that God has a better plan, and it might not be what they want, and I also learned it's a little, we may think being popular might be the most important thing in our life, but I learned also that it's the little things, being able to hang out with your family and just stuff like that.
How old are you now? 18. Oh, I have a 17-year-old, so this hits very close to home. Wow, does that not just inspire everybody? Well, Ricardo, I think you have a lineup for I think you have a lineup for maybe a speaker in 2017, no pressure, but would she not inspire all of us to, as adults, you're 18 years old and you have that wisdom. Unfortunate how you had to get it, but you have that wisdom. What a gift.
That's why I like to hear it, so people don't have to go through what I went through to figure out these things. I can just save them that pain. Also, because my friend who passed away in the car, her name was Cheyenne Hooper, and it's just it's so hard to lose her and watch everything. I get to live this life, and I suffer survivor's guilt because I get to live this, not the best life, but I get to live a life. I get to go home to my family, and her parents are at home, and they're taking grief really hardly. So I'd like to also do something in her memory too.
Wow. Well, I want to help you do that, so we'll talk after. Wow. I'm all choked up. So is that just incredible, the power of a story? You don't have to write a book, because obviously that just worked without a book. But imagine the power in getting that in the hands of thousands and thousands of people that don't know you yet. So awesome. Okay, with that, I am done, Ricardo. He's like, can I go? Can I go? So let's give Ricardo a hand.